AJ, welcome to the podcast. I'm super excited to work with you today, man. For people who aren't familiar with you and all the amazing stuff you've done in the soccer space and now that you're continuing to do in the soccer performance and sports performance world and beyond that way, would you mind filling in a bit about who you are and all the amazing stuff you got going on, man?
Briefly, I am known as a soccer player. That's what I grew up playing, and I started playing soccer at the age of 4. It became a passion of mine. MLS was created, Major League Soccer, when I was just a young kid, and I grew up in the DC area, and I was able to watch that team grow, and they were also the best team in the league. So for me, it was like, man, I want to do this. I was emulating those guys, yeah, down to their stretching, right? Like I would try and emulate that when I was warming up, growing up. But I had a dream, and it was to be a professional soccer player. And my parents helped me every step of the way. And there were obviously some big moments in, I would say, my career from their standpoint, and my standpoint as well, that could have altered, kind of my career. And I ended up having a really good college career, which led to me going to a D1 school and a hometown University of Maryland, where I won 2 national championships. And then from there, again, maybe I wasn't touted to be a big name player going into the professional world, but I was able to have a 14-year career in MLS, which also spanned into the international game as well. So I have a couple caps for the U.S. men's national team as well as the Guam men's national team. So a really unique experience there as well, being able to travel the world and play the game that I loved. And now I'm working with a Swedish sports tech company, Photon Sports, and it's been great. I get to stay in sports, and I think if you ask any athlete what they miss most about playing is just being around sports and being in those environments and still being able to also utilize that network I built throughout my career. So I'm doing that, but then I also have my own indoor soccer facility here in Charlotte, North Carolina, where it's a little bit tech driven. So try and be a little bit different than everybody else and make sure the kids have fun at a really young age, I think is very important. And obviously being able to use my playing experience, my coaching experience, as well as my U.S. youth scouting experience as well to help these kids. So in a nutshell, that is me.
My goodness, man, you wear a lot of different hats, but to your point, it sounds like all of it stems back to soccer and your love for the game that way, whether that's on the playing side, the performance side, the scouting side, now the kind of sports science performance side as well that way. I mean, you're very well versed in the game, and if anything, I think you were a little too humble in talking about your accomplishments and accolades that way. I mean, the types of people, the types of soccer athletes that you got to play with, play against, and, shut down for a game or two. Not many people can say that they held some of the different guys that you defended scoreless for a game. Like that's a huge flex. And even just the 2 national championship wins. I mean, I can't tell you how many athletes I've talked with and worked with that never even make it to the Natty, and they have a phenomenal team. On paper, it looks like they should be the next contender, and they just don't get there for whatever reason. I'd love to hear more about what that experience was like for you, having the experience of winning not just 1 but 2 national championships with Maryland for soccer that way, because I'd imagine that was probably one of those, like, I made it kind of moments for you that way, if I had to guess.
Yeah, it's crazy because this past weekend was actually our 20-year reunion from the championship my freshman year. So when I look back at that year in general, like obviously as a big, a lot of big moments in my career, and a lot of, man, what if I did that? What if I went down that path and not the path I went down? Like, how would my trajectory have turned out? How would my 4 years at the university have turned out? But I just will always remember the first game of my career. It was in Cal State Fullerton. We're winning 5-0. I'm in the uniform as a freshman, 17 years old, and my coach comes up to me. He's like, "I think I want to redshirt you," as I'm standing there in uniform. And to me, now looking back at it, I had no idea what that meant, except for it meant I had to be in school for another year. And in that split second, I was like, "No, thank you." Like, that's the last thing I wanted to do, right? Was be in school for another year. But he put me in the game. He said, "All right." And I'll say a couple, 3, 4 weeks later, I was a starter on the team. And I remember he put me in a game against North Carolina State, and he wanted me to man mark their forward, which was their best player. I did that. Unfortunately, we still lost, but at the end of that game, as a freshman, 17-year-old who was just told the coach wanted to redshirt me. In that team huddle, he was like, "Nobody on this team has a starting spot except for AJ." And for me, that was a big moment, right? Like I could have redshirted a couple weeks earlier and not played a single minute, right? So here I am now as a starter, and then being able to start also in the national championship game as a 17-year-old, 18-year-old now at that point, center back, probably 100 pounds soaking wet, playing against grown men, right? They were 21, 22 years old. So, uh, yeah, I think I learned a lot in that first year, and I'm thankful that I made that decision in a split instance, right? That kind of helped me that year, but just helped me along my entire development as well.
Yeah, I mean, talk about an aha moment. I mean, that's something special right there to literally go from, "Hey, I want to redshirt you," to a month later being the guy with the starting spot, being called to do the big task and mark, the best players on teams and so on that way. Like, there's something special about that. I mean, that's really awesome, and I think that's something that a lot of the athletes that I've talked with are looking for as well in their careers. Just they're looking for that aha moment. They're looking for that moment that like they flip the switch and it's like, oh, it's time to prove people wrong now and go all in and just show them what I can do. And I think it's awesome that you're able to have that experience and kind of like you mentioned from just such a young age, like playing the national championship game at 18. But I feel like now more than ever, especially in soccer, we see the age envelope being pushed more and more on both ends of the spectrum, right? Like we've got kids 16, 17 years old playing professional. And on the flip side, we've got guys that are still playing into their late 30s and beyond. And it's like, that's not the standard, or at least it wasn't the standard when I was growing up, playing the FIFA games and all that sort of thing. But, it's great to see, in my opinion, how we push the envelope forward in soccer and see these opportunities become available to athletes younger and younger. And obviously, if you can stay healthy, then, the world is your oyster and you can play into your 30s and even beyond at that point. I mean, I was still amazed when I did stop by your facility. You mentioned that earlier, like the level of athleticism you display now in your late 30s is beyond anything that I've seen before. I'm like, wow, he's on another level. So I can only imagine, what it was like for you 5, 10 years ago, at that point as well. Like I'm just amazed by all the things that you've physically done, man.
Yeah, I reminisce about those days as well. But you're right, in terms of soccer is changing and evolving, and it's crazy, right? Like just yesterday, there was a 15-year-old playing in the MLS Cup playoffs, and then in college, there's also 26-year-olds now playing still in college. So like, is the game has definitely changed, and I think it's great to give these young players an opportunity to showcase themselves at a young age. And when I think about being at Maryland, right, like I was in a professional environment. We were just not professionals, right? But we were all on that pathway to becoming pros. Like I had guys that were on the World Cup rosters and the Olympic teams growing up. And yeah, it was like uh, it was a little teaser of what to expect when you get to that next level. Obviously, college is a little bit different. You all, uh, which, and I like to say this to my college players, and especially at my alma mater, is you all were good enough to go to any school you wanted in this country, right? But for whatever reason, you all chose to go to Maryland. So I think that's really special and something that you don't really get beyond that, right? Like pro sports is you go where they trade you or they draft you, and uh, not too many guys have a say on where they get to go. But for the most part, yeah, it's you go where they want you or need you and all. So some places you might not like, but yeah, it's the game is changing.
Yeah, and on that note of the game changing, one of the things that's come up as I've talked with people in professional organizations is how the pathway to get to the professionals has evolved. And a lot of them now, they're looking for people in the academies. They're looking for people that have been kind of groomed in their system from a young age. And they're less likely, at least from what they're telling me verbally that way, to look at the college soccer athlete than they were before. Before it was like, oh yeah, just like every other sport, you go D1, you play D1, and then you go pro. Versus for them, they're looking for guys that have come up in their academy, stay in their academy, and then transition to their pro team that way, if you will. And obviously, you were able to do kind of the D1 to pro jump that way. Do you still feel like what you've seen in the space, do you still feel like that option exists for athletes that way? And if so, what was that transition like for you going from D1 national championship to professional player for LA and Boston or New England and beyond?
Yeah, I think there is still a pathway, right? But when I was growing up, there were no MLS academies. So there wasn't a start you when you're 12 and then kind of groom you into our system as we go along. So college was the pathway, and now we obviously see that has changed a little bit, and I think there's two sides to it. Like, there's still some really good academy players who go and play college soccer, right, for the experience and for the education and all, and I think college soccer will always be there. But I think now there's a real big emphasis on international players as well. So I mean, we have some former pros and college guys coming from Europe that are coming here for also the experience and an opportunity to extend their careers here in MLS and beyond. But I was talking about this the other day with some younger players still at Maryland. Was there's so many opportunities now, and that's a good thing, but I think also a bad thing, right? Like there's just so many different levels to where a coach or GM can be like, all right, I'm just gonna go send you down to this team, right? And you're not really gonna gain that same experience like I got to gain when I was a rookie growing up with the LA Galaxy, to where you're like you're put in that environment, one, because you belong there, but two, you're gonna learn throughout the way. And I think now it's just really easy to ship people down to the lower teams or lower divisions, and then it's really hard to gain that real professional top tier experience, right? Unless you're in it. So while the opportunities are great, I think it also makes it tougher. But for me, going from college D1 to the pro game was obviously a very big jump, and but it was one that I took full responsibility of and understood from day one. Cool, it was great that I got drafted, but all right, this is where the real work is gonna start now, right? Like I got the opportunity, and now I have to take advantage of the opportunity as well. So yeah, I went in with the mindset of I'm gonna work like I always do and prove people wrong, because obviously I've had to prove a lot of people wrong, right? Even my high school teammates, when I committed to Maryland, they're like, "Oh, you're never gonna play there." And then, being a 4-year starter, winning 2 national championships, I'm the only player in the program's history to start and win 2 national championship games. So like those are really big moments for me, especially as a Maryland native.
Yeah, and I'm willing to bet that the majority of the naysayers did not go on to win a national championship in anything. And it's comical to me how many people just have nothing better to do than to tear other people down, right? Everyone wants to break your stride and cause you to trip and stumble that way. Very few are willing to stick with you throughout the highs and the lows and all the other things along the journey that way. But I think to your point, it just makes the satisfaction of proving them wrong that much sweeter and that much better. And you also mentioned about the concept of like almost like a athlete relegation, if you will, where it's like instead of a whole team getting moved down because they didn't perform to standards, it's like, it's easier now than ever for an athlete to get sent to a lower level or potentially a higher level, but usually a lower level type of program that way, like you mentioned. And I think it's one of those things that in theory, it sounds good, right? Oh, well, you'll get the play time, you'll get this, you'll get that, you'll get the other thing. But to the point that you made, if you want to truly be one of the best at something, if you want to be someone that still gets talked about and remembered and invited back to campus 20 years later, and people still actually remember, like, oh, yeah, that AJ guy 20 years ago, like he was something really special. He was something that the program valued and found unique and so on that way. Like, if you want to be that guy, you have to surround yourself with the very best all the time. You have to find those people that are motivated and driven, constantly flipped on, and they're not willing to settle for anything less than that highest level. And the interesting thing about that kind of like relegation of the player, or I guess I'll even bring back the potential red shirt for you your freshman year. It's like those moments to me are the deciding factors. Like, are you gonna sit there and accept this, or are you gonna use this as the opportunity to show them like why you belong, where you belong, and so on that way? And I think moments like that can be truly defining for an athlete's career because, like you mentioned, I'm sure it's difficult to get your way back to the top. if you start to kind of sink down those different levels that way. Like I think about it from some of the baseball guys I talked with, and they said, it's a grind to get to the MLB. They're there. And then what happens if things don't go well? Oh, we're going to drop you down to AAA until you get back into form. If that doesn't go well, we drop you down to AA. And, there comes a point where it's like, it's just so difficult to come back from that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I just remember the the first couple years in LA, I was playing with World Cup veterans, and I was playing with Greg Berhalter, who was the U.S. men's national team coach for a while now, and like you're with Landon Donovan and David Beckham, and those are the guys that they help raise your level as well, right? To where you're like, man, I better perform right now, or else I'm not gonna play, or else I'm gonna get yelled at, right? So I think that's kind of what drives you too, right? Like if I do get sent down and I'm with younger players who obviously they're a little bit more immature, uh, what's that level look like on a daily basis, right? Is it making me better? Right? Is the playing time making me better? But I think more than anything, the training sessions are what made me focus a little bit more. But I think growing up, I was known as a gamer and not a practice player, right? So I think when I got to the pro level, though, I was like, all right, I got to bring it every single day, not just during the games now.
Right, right. Absolutely. And you mentioning about the training side, what was the training like for you back then, 15, 20 years ago? And what's the training that you're doing now with the athletes at the Golden that way? Because obviously you mentioned it's very highly tech driven with what you do that way. And I'd imagine it's some of those things that you're like, man, I wish we had this 20 years ago. This is awesome.
Yeah, I remember growing up. Again, I was just in Maryland, so we went past my old house that I grew up in, and there was a little brick wall on the side of the house, and that's what I used to hit the ball off every single day outside by myself. Right? We didn't have the video games and the phones and all that kids have now access to. Unfortunately, well, for unfortunately for them, honestly, because I think it just allowed us back in the day to focus a little bit more on our craft and going outdoors and all. But when I opened up the Golden, I wanted to create something that was similar to that, right? So I invested in some technology that is essentially you're surrounded in a circle of a brick wall, essentially, and there's a bunch of different games that you can play. So you're working on just so many different things that you can't really work on with this a straight pass back wall or anything from that aspect. But just working on things like scanning your vision, your passing, your touches, your control, your awareness, all those different things. Like I wanted to create something different than these other facilities here. So obviously being able to also put my own touch on it, on my own experiences and all is been great for the kids. And yeah, it's been good to grow that and uh, yeah, we'll see where it takes me.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, I think some of those, I guess I'll call them soft skills of soccer, for lack of a better way to put it, predict success just as much as the physical, right? Like, obviously, you need to be able to dribble and pass and shoot and all that sort of thing. I don't think anyone doubts that. But you look at some of these different legends, like I just look at like the Barcelona system and what they had in the midfield, like Sergio, Xavi, Iniesta, like those guys just had such a level of knowing where each other was, where their opponents are, where there's space on the field, where the ball is. Like the soccer IQ, for lack of a better way to put it, was just off the charts. And it was on full display. And don't get me wrong, they were all physically phenomenal athletes as well. But like they were just one of those like midfield systems that to me, every time I watched them, it was just like poetry in motion, watching how those other components of things like you mentioned you might not be able to work on with just a wall that way, really come to light that way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And obviously you were also mentioning about some of those different athletes that you got to play with professionally that way. I guess I gotta hear more about that pro side a little bit that way. Was there anyone that you defended that you were like, man, this guy, he's legit, he's the real deal, like he got me on that one, or anyone that you were like able to shut down but just surprised by the challenge that came with them, or any notable stories that way just from your professional career that way, AJ?
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, I've gotten to play with some of the best players to ever play the game. And just looking at Landon Donovan, David Beckham, Robbie Keane, Steven Gerrard, like those guys, and then playing against I'm not say even better players, but uh, a couple players that are known as the GOATs, right? Like, so the Messis, the Ronaldos, Ronaldinhos. So I've played against all of those guys, and most of them when I was a rookie as well. So here I am lining up across. I remember we were playing against AC Milan when Ronaldinho was on the team, and my coach, he was like, "So do you know who you're playing against tomorrow?" And I was like, "No." It was just Ronaldinho. So yeah, some crazy experiences, and yeah, obviously those guys are who they are because of their talent and skill, and very hard and difficult to defend. But I think back then I didn't care who you were. I was gonna try and take you down, and I had no fear. So yeah, it was fun.
It's almost like a nothing to lose mindset at that point, right? Like
Yeah.
you're the rookie on the team out there defending one of the best players of all time. It's like, hey, like, if they get one goal on me, I don't think anyone's gonna like bat an eye. Like they're a legend, but it's like, man, if I shut them down, like I've got everything to gain here. So
And again, I think in those games, those were probably my best games, right? Like, I don't know what it was, but I just rose to the occasion, like the championship games and the bigger games, which probably hindered my career, right? I should have been ready for each game the exact same. But there's something in those, right?
But I mean, at the end of the day, pressure is a privilege. How do you go about helping that next generation of soccer athletes prep to deal with the pressure that comes with the game? Because I think now more than ever, like we've mentioned, we're seeing the limits be pushed constantly. And I think now the pressures to perform are rising because, if you don't perform when it's needed, they've got 20 other guys that are chomping at the bit, whether they're on the team or not, to get a shot like what you have that way. So how do athletes prep for that modern day pressure that comes with soccer?
Yeah, I try and help with that, right? But there's so much pressure at a young age. At 8 years old, they're doing tryouts for kids, and it's just they're like these kids know, like, oh, I'm on the third team, which means I'm on the third best team. So they know they're not at the top, but they are pushing themselves, right, to get to that next level. So that's good in itself. But that's the reason I wanted to create the Golden was to one, make it fun, but also you're going to develop if you continue uh getting your reps in, right? I think that's the most important part. A lot of kids say they want to go pro, and then I ask them, well, how much are you training at your house? And they're like, here and there sometimes. I'm like, well, you don't really want it that bad then, right? So I was outside every single day by myself. If it was hot outside, I would literally be out there with a hose, spraying the ground so it was wet, like doing anything and everything to just be outside and working on my touches. So yeah, trying to push them to understand what it takes because there's just so many more kids now that are playing soccer. There's so many more kids that want to go pro. There's obviously a lot more opportunity, but less than 1% are going to go pro. So if I can just prepare them for even life after sports too, right? Like make them a better human, uh, give them those soft skills though that you learn throughout sports to be able to take it into wherever they're going to go next as well.
To that point, that makes me think back to a conversation we had with Nick Sodato from Boston earlier this year, and he said it all comes back to the preparation that you do or the prep that you didn't do, right? If you're an athlete, if you've put in time every single day for years and years and years, those high pressure moments are a lot easier to deal with because you prepped for it, you're ready for it, right? You might have even put in more work than the guys you're going against because that's how much it means to you. On the flip side, if you didn't prepare for it, then I think it's easier to succumb to the pressures of those games and those big matches and so on that way. And I think that's probably why you were able to respond so well to it when you were called to, is because you've been grinding on it since you were 4 years old, right? Like, just started walking, talking, starting to figure out what the world holds. And first memories for you are probably more soccer related than anything else because you've been in it that long. And I think when you do something that long, it just becomes so second nature to you that way. I know we mentioned a little bit about some of the professional opportunities that you had within the MLS, but you also mentioned you played for the US team, you played for Guam, and obviously there's something special about being able to represent your country and being able to play internationally and travel the world and, hear your country's national anthem, the colors, everything that way. Like it's just a next level surreal kind of thing, I'm sure that way. What was that like for you? And obviously what opportunities came from playing internationally for several years for you, and any notable stories along the way that came from your international caps?
Yeah, I had the privilege of going into 4 US camps throughout my career, and it got to the point where I was like, "All right, I'm here at these camps, but I know where I stand in the pecking order as well," right? So I was good at self-evaluations, and I knew I wasn't gonna be a top player for the national team, and for me, it was like, "All right, I did this for a few years. I wanna go play international football," so I went and uh, did a one-time switch over to Guam. So uh, it was crazy going from the LA Galaxy and the U.S. men's national team to a small island, right? Of a team that told me that they were going into games hoping they didn't lose by double digits. Whereas me growing up, that's not how I ever thought, right? It's how can I win a game? How can I win another championship this year? From youth soccer to college to now being in MLS at that time, right? So uh, yeah, that was new for me, and having to, uh, kind of learn a whole new culture as well, right? Because yes, my family's from Guam, but I never really grew up on the island, so I didn't know exactly what to feel when I was there and all. But the guys were all great. They took me in with open arms, obviously, and yeah, we sat first place after the first round of World Cup qualifiers because we won 2 home games in a row. Unfortunately, we didn't win another game after that, but at one point we were over Iran, Turkmenistan, and Oman. So yeah, really cool experiences, and uh, being able to travel all over Asia and playing. But a funny story. Actually, no, I don't know if that's a good one for this podcast.
Well, what's your favorite place that you what's the favorite place that you traveled to internationally that way?
Oh man, we've been to Bhutan was absolutely beautiful, and just in the mountains, one of the highest altitude stadiums apparently in the world. And maybe I was mid-season form, but I didn't really feel the altitude change much. But that was I believe we ended up tying in Bhutan, and then our team and their team got on the exact same plane, and I sat next to 2 of their players on the flight out, and it was just so awkward, right? Like, you just played them, competed against them, and now you're both taking a flight over to Guam to play another game as well. So, that was a funny moment, but, it was a very beautiful place, and, uh, really cool experiences everywhere I went. And when I was also on international duty in, like, Cambodia, I think one of my first ever camps, we went to Cambodia and Laos, and there were so many LA Galaxy shirts out there, and it was so bizarre because, like, I have no idea, right, how they got over there. Maybe it was when Landon Donovan went on his sabbatical and went to Cambodia, and he dropped off 100 jerseys. But yeah, there was kids out there in LA Galaxy jerseys, and trying to tell them that I played for the team at the time, and obviously the language barriers and all, but showing them photos of me with Landon and Beckham, like, it was really cool to experience.
Do you still have one of the old FIFA games? Do you ever jump on and like play FIFA as yourself that way? See if you still got it?
Yeah, when I had kids 11 years ago, I don't think I've touched another video game. So, but yes, I used to collect them all, so I'd still have them all the way up until, man, I couldn't tell you, 2017. I probably stopped buying them. So yeah, I don't play with my kids. It would be cool to bring them up just so my kids can see me on the screen as well. So
Yeah, something unique about being the actual athlete in the game. You're not just playing the game, you were actually part of the game,
and
forever immortalized that way. So that's something really unique that way. And I don't meet many athletes that have that experience that way. So there's something special about that. Obviously, we've talked a little bit about the Golden and some of the stuff you're doing down there in the Charlotte area. And you mentioned that the tech component is really big and unique about your space that way, and not a whole lot of other, groups in the area offer what you have from a tech component. But I just think about just your own knowledge and skill set. Like, I think very few, if any, other people in the area have the playing experience and scouting experience that you have as well that way. What are kind of your core philosophies and principles for working with this next generation of soccer athletes, if you will? I know you mentioned fun and kind of gamification a few times as we were talking. Is there anything else that you really try and drive and instill in them from a young age for them to succeed in soccer?
Yeah, I think going back to it, fun is always the top of my list, right? Like, the dropout rate in youth sports is so high because it's stressful, right? Like, I go to youth soccer games and hear parents yelling and coaches yelling at these kids, and it's like I don't want to be that person. So I want to give them a fun environment to where, like, I had a mom last week say, "Oh, my daughter got in trouble, and I threatened to take away the golden," and right, and that's her way of getting her child to do something she likes. Right, they don't want to lose that opportunity to come in because it's such a fun environment. So, I think that's the best thing I could ask for. And then obviously, down the road when they're ready and they need it, being able to tap into my network, right? If they're looking to go to college or looking for a different club team, whatever it may be, trying to help guide them along those ways.
What goes into creating a positive, fun environment for the youth athlete? Because I hear that come up all the time, and everyone agrees it's a good thing, but very few people ever really talk about what it takes to create that and what that looks like. So what does that look like for you that way?
Yeah, for me, it's the technology piece. I think is a big thing, but it's not just setting them in a piece of technology and letting them play, right? It's also helping them understand how this translates into an actual game as well, right? So while they're in this machine where they're enclosed in a circle and the ball is coming back and forth, right? It's explaining to them, well, this is how you can translate this into your position. So if you're a winger, well, who are you getting this ball from? Who are you turning? Who are you trying to play? Like, what is your, um, you know, I said call to action, but really painting the picture for them. But in terms of fun, it's just being a positive influence on them. Like, be creative, make mistakes. Like, I'm not going to crush you for missing a pass, right? But if you bring the effort and you're trying things, like, this is your way to experiment, be fun, enjoy it. Like, I've had moms say that their daughters love the one-on-one time that they have because I am such a positive influence, and I think for me that's very telling, right? Because sometimes our coaches aren't, and sometimes the parents aren't as well. So if I can be the positive influence and always pushing them to be better, but doing it in a positive light, I think that's the most important, and I think that's where they have fun as well.
Absolutely. If you carry the respect that you have to the athletes that you work with, it goes such a long way. And to your point, everyone's always been hearing, like we said before, the naysayers. It's like everyone is always willing to try and bring you down. How many people are willing to try and pour into you and build you up? And I mean, on top of that, like at the end of the day, they're in a fairly controlled environment with you. Like their head coach probably isn't watching.
No.
The college scouts probably aren't there watching the majority of the time. So it's like, if you make a mistake there, like no one's gonna see it. And I would assume for you having that scouting background, it's like on a certain aspect, yeah, skill matters. But by the same token, if you make a mistake or two, I would assume it's not just you making the mistake that, causes a scout to look away, but more of the character and what you do afterwards, right? Like, do you make a mistake and then you just downward spiral and ruin the rest of your game?
Exactly.
Or do you find a way to brush it off and come back and make the next play or get the ball back or something like that? Like it's, one of those things that no athlete is ever 100% perfect. I've never seen a soccer player who completes 100% of their passes, 100% shots on goal. Like it's just unrealistic. So it's like, don't let the failure be the thing that defines you, but instead maybe focus on how you respond and react to those situations that don't go as you planned.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't said it better, right? Like I touched on it. Like I asked my players, right? They miss a pass or they miss a touch, and it's just heads down. I'm like, guess what? You're gonna get the ball back in about 3 seconds, right? So can you move on in that 3 seconds and then prepare yourself for that next touch, that next pass, that next shot, like whatever it may be. And I always also ask them like, who in soccer has never missed a pass, right? And of course they say Messi and Ronaldo, and I'm like, Messi missed a PK in the World Cup. Like those things happen, and it's just about how you move on from it. So
Absolutely, yeah. One of the most eye-opening things for me when I was doing high volumes of ACL rehabs was none of the protocols sent to me had any kind of change direction assessment. We do hop tests and jump tests and strength tests, but we never actually looked at cutting. So we did some podcast episodes, we did some research, just kind of digging into what was available online that way. Started running 505, 510, different simple little change direction assessments like that. And it was unbelievable the difference on some of these athletes. And it didn't show up in anything else. It didn't show up in the hop test. They were able to hide it. They were able to hide it on the strength side. But when you make cut and pivot quick, even if it's a predefined direction, the performance was still not what it needs to be. And I think, we talk about it all the time in all these episodes about bridging that gap between athlete getting cleared to return to sport versus being able to return at their desired level of performance after an injury. And I feel like this is a good way to help bridge that gap, if you will.
yeah, I think so. And I tore my ACL back in 2017 when I was in Houston, and I remember just doing the jump test. And I specifically remember one day doing these broad jumps, and a different practitioner from the clinic I was at, he was like, "Yeah, you look about 50%." And I was like, "What? Like, I want to play next week." Like, so I was like, "How are you gonna say that?" Right? Like, you had no idea uh, what I looked like before that, even, right? So yeah, I think it hits it from a couple different places, right? It's player development, but also that return to play stage as well. So being able to track, like, it would have been amazing to see how I've been progressing throughout my ACL rehab, and what did my cuts look like and that reacceleration look like, because we know that's the most important thing coming back from injury for someone like me, just psychologically, right? Like, I'm so scared of decelerating and trying to change directions when I know I just popped my knee last year, right? Doing that exact same thing. So uh, yeah, it's been really fun to help grow it and seeing where we can go, because we're always changing the game as well. And yeah, that's it's been good.
What do you feel like was the biggest thing that you learned from just recovering and returning after your own ACL injury that way? Because I'm sure pretty much everyone in the soccer space knows someone that's faced that injury, and to be able to return and play successfully is something that obviously everyone that, faces that injury wants to do. But unfortunately, the stats show that a subset of people never get back. So what do you feel like set yours apart, and what do you feel like you learned from that you want other athletes that maybe face something similar to take away?
Yeah, going off of that too, right? Like, I didn't know where I was before that ACL injury. So like, I think mentally and maybe physically, I never got back to where I was, but I have no idea, right? Because I didn't do any type of baseline testing before and after that. So uh, now I think looking back though, when I was going through my ACL, was the mental side of it as well was draining, because when I was in Houston, the PT clinic was a big old glass window outlooking the soccer field. So every single day I'm indoors doing PT while I see my team outdoors training, right? So that was 8 months of watching, right? Every single day. And then trying to not take and cut corners, because some days it's sad and it's frustrating, right? Like, you can't. I couldn't even pick my leg up off the floor my first week after ACL injury. I'm like, how am I ever going to play soccer again, right? Or even being able to go through a full cycle on a bike that first couple weeks was intimidating. And yeah, I think the mental side is a huge part of that return to play as well.
Absolutely, I could not agree more, and I think that's one of the big things I talk about a lot on here is the need for what I call, like, a on-field rehab model, where it's like, yeah, you still have your time in the training room, you still have certain boxes you need to check, but, some of those things, could we maybe bring them to the field so you're still there on the pitch with your teammates, you're still involved, you're still around them, and what kind of things early on could we do to maybe get you re-involved within the sport that way, right? Like, hey, like, we're 3 months out. I don't want you running and jumping yet per se, but hey, can we do walkthroughs, right? Like, could you literally just go on the field and walk through where you'd be and what you'd be doing, kind of like a day before the game kind of thing? Just anything that we can do to help the athlete get involved in their sport again. I think it pays dividends mentally for them. And, I'm willing to bet, I don't have any research on this, but I'm willing to bet when you get to that end stage and you start to do some of those different assessments with the tech, they're going to display a much better result to those assessments because you've been grooming them specifically for soccer or whatever their sport is for a longer period of time. Instead of like, oh, we've got 2 months to ramp it up. It's like, hey, we're keeping that main thing the main thing throughout the entire rehab process instead of just the last couple of weeks that we work together.
Yeah, because it's tough, right? Like, you just feel so isolated when you're by yourself every day, and everybody else is out there kicking the ball around. So, right, that is your livelihood right there outside those windows as well. And to be so close to it, but not be able to do it, it was hard. But I think I understood at that point, like what I needed to do to also get back, right? And I think uh, that's not easy, right? A lot of people crack and they cut corners and they take reps off. And I'm not going to say I never took a rep off because we all did. Like, no one, no one's sitting there doing the BFRs for 600 rounds, right? But yeah, I know I worked hard to get back. And was I the same player as I was before? Probably not. But again, there was no way to know that, I think, as well, right? It was just well, you look slower, or you look faster, or you look like this, right? But that's all subjective, right? Rather than obviously full-time sports, well, that's objective data right there, right? Like, okay, now I have my baseline. Here's where I am now. So I can tell I'm X percentage worse than I was before. Like, so I think that's why technology is so important now, especially in that return to play.
Absolutely, man. I feel like we could probably continue this conversation all day long because I know we're just scratching the surface about all the many soccer stories and stories about training and scouting and everything else you've got that way, man. But for people listening, is there anything we missed or anything else you really wanted to share today?
No, I think we touched on quite a bit. Yeah, I think I- throughout my career, I've had obviously a whirlwind of a journey, and I'm excited about staying in sports and continuing the growth here at Full Time Sports while also helping the kids in my area here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and beyond at the Golden. So, uh, yeah, I can't believe I'm almost 40 years old and at this point in my life, but it's a blessing watching my kids grow up as well. So.
Absolutely. And for people who want to find out more about you or book training sessions with the Gold Den or something to that effect, because I know you work with a ton of different pro athletes, professional hopefuls, and so on that way, where can they find you online and all?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at AJD_20. Uh, our Golden website it's actually a play on words. So it's not GOLDEN, it's GOALDEN. So a little play on words there. But thegolden.com to find
Awesome.
out more.
Yeah, we'll link to all of that in the description below. That way, if you didn't quite catch it, you can just click there and see everything AJ is up to. Dude, this was awesome. I really appreciate your time, man.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you.